Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I figured I'd just run my mouth in NBA style. A few things I was thinking about, I guess. Not overly thinking, and I don't find myself to be an expert in such things, but there are a few teams that I wonder if they're as legitimate as people say they are. One of them, Denver. I don't really like Denver's roster. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. They have some nice players. Obviously, Jokic is Jokic, so he is what legitimizes Denver. And if you put him on any team, he immediately legitimizes them. You put Jokic in Sacramento, and I think they'll be just as good as Denver, because Jokic is what makes that team go. But the rest of that roster, garbage. In my humble opinion, it's trash. Now, obviously, Christian Braun is out. I'm a big fan of Murray, so I'm not gonna call him trash. I just think his contract is trash, but he's a killer. Shot my team down many times, so no matter where he is in the league, I'm gonna look at him as somebody who could kill you in the final seconds of a playoff series. He's already proven that. So when I say trash, I mean the sum of their parts. Not each and every player I think that way about. I do not. I don't think Cam Johnson is trash. I don't. I just think the sum of what they have around Jokic is being heralded as some type of great thing. And it's not. Not in my mind. It's not. You're talking about Aaron Gordon. Okay, I like Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's really refined his game and refound himself over the last 2 years as a close to all-star player. I like him. I think he has some good defensive intangibles. Don't necessarily trust him to stay healthy. I like what they have as it pertains to a guy like Julian Strawther. Julian Strawther is a pretty good player. He's pretty good. I like what he does in these situations. And I think that when you talk about the Denver Nuggets, essentially, you're asking me to look at them like they're the second or the third best team in the Western Conference. And while they may be considered that, it's all contingent around the health of Jokic. The health of Jokic. He has to be on the floor for them to be reasonable. If you remove him from the equation, I don't think that team is a playoff team at all. I don't. And so for me, that's what I mean when I say I think they're trash. Because the sum of what they have around Jokic is not able to function, in my opinion, without him. So if he's not absolutely on the floor playing 100%, that team probably win 25, 30 games. You know what I'm saying? So when I consider a team being the best, if you want to use that as an outlier to say, well, yeah, this is what they present to the table, Jokic and what they have, and therefore it's good, I'll agree with you. But they can't afford a Jokic injury at all. They can't afford him to not play 75 games. And so when you're talking about what teeters between being good and bad, I think what they're leaning on is Jokic staying healthy. And if that is not the case, you immediately see that team fall all the way off the face of the earth. Like literally. I'm not trying to bet my money on the Denver Nuggets based on that reality. As long as Joker's on the floor, he can carry 10 Jokers through a good regular season into the playoffs. If they're competent basketball players, he can lead them in this league. That's how amazing he is. And another hot take in regards to the Denver Nuggets, when you start talking about some of the greatest centers of all time, Jokic is not the worst of the great centers. I don't know if that's a super hot take for everybody, but I know it's a lot of old school guys who are not ready to put him in front of certain names. I'm telling you that he is in front of certain names on my book. Now, I'm not going to say who those names are because I haven't given that enough thought. But when you talk about the top 10 centers of all time, he's on that list and he's not 10. That's what I want to say. Now, does he have to do more winning to be solidified? I believe so. He does have a championship, so that definitely puts him in a conversation. But is he more talented than some of them dudes who have more championships? Yes. Would he have survived, if not thrived, in their era? Yes. If he had a good team in their era, would some of them have as many championships as they have? No. Okay? So that's what I think of Jokic. I think Jokic is not only the best player in this era, but he'd be the best player in several eras where great centers reigned. It just is what it is, man. And I know there's a lot, like I said, it's a lot of people who are not going to want to hear that. Like, you can't put him over such and such. Such and such has 12 rings. You can't put him over such and such. Such and such. I don't care, bro. Jokic's better than that dude. He just is. If they were on the floor together, Jokic would get his pound of flesh. It just is what it is. He's amongst the greatest centers of all time, bro. And if he's in the top 10, he's not number 10. That's what I want to say. And I say that with a whole lot of confidence. And like I said, he's dragging a Denver team that I don't think is very good through a Western Conference that is very good. And yeah, that's what I got to say. Like I said, you could put him on the worst team in the league and he would drag them to the playoffs. You could put him on the Nets right now and he will immediately pull them out of the cellar if he's healthy and drag them to the playoffs. They would be the 4th or 5th seed in the Eastern Conference before the end of the season. I'm serious. Because he makes everybody better and he's that impossible to deal with. And that is exactly what I think the Denver Nuggets essentially are. They're that. They're the Nets with Jokic. Just being honest. That's exactly what I think of them. If they didn't have that player out there, they would be amongst the Sacramentos and New Orleans and the Clippers of the NBA right now. So, the next thought I want to say is there's a couple of names that is floating around of players that are starting to make a name for themselves. Some of those guys are playing in place of people who are likely coming back, which is kind of unfortunate. And far be it from me to tell you exactly how these guys are doing, because I'm only really following my team and our opponents. So some of these guys I just have yet to see, but I'm aware of their names and I'd like to shout them out. Just a few. Musa Cisse of the Dallas Mavericks. I'm hearing good things. I ain't seen him play. He's on a two-way from what I understand, but I'm hearing really good things about him in Dallas. So definitely wanted to say his name. Another name that comes to mind is another guy in Dallas that I've mentioned several times, Brandon Williams. I believe his name is Williams. I think it's Williams. Point guard. He's turning into somebody that I think needs to be taken seriously. And when the Dallas Mavericks start talking about what they have that people may want, trying to figure out how they can make a trade for something good, he's starting to build trade value. Now, if he's good, obviously, and he's young, you don't want to get rid of him if you're Dallas. I kind of want to hold on to him, but just trying to figure out how Dallas can put together a desirable trade package. You put Brandon Williams and Max Christie together, you probably could get something you like. I think you could probably get something you like. So these are the type of things that Dallas, like, you know, if they really want to hit the reset button and they need to get picks and stuff like that, it's hard to say that a guy like that is worth a pick or anything like that. It's hard to say that because I don't believe he is in the NBA that's currently understood it to be. But in my world of how I value things, I would be quicker to spend draft equity on players that are starting to rise like him over a guy who's headed the other direction, like, say, KCP or, you know, Gabe Vincent or something like that. When it comes to the world that I wish the NBA was, you value Brandon Williams over those type players. You just do, because he's heading upwards. You see he's starting to break out, that kind of thing. Another player, and we've talked about this guy several times, from the Milwaukee Bucks. What's the guy's name? Oh, man, my mind is going blank. I hate when that happens. But the point guard of the Milwaukee Bucks, man, Ryan Rollins. Ryan Rollins starting to really make a name for himself. Shout him out. Got a chance to look at him. He didn't play his greatest game against the Lakers, but overall, he's been really good this season. Another guy that's breaking out in a really major way in the absence of a lot of players in Detroit, and that's Dennis Jenkins. I had never heard of Dennis Jenkins before 2 weeks ago, but he is really, really putting up a lot of assists, putting up big numbers, getting some steals. This dude is playing well, man. He is playing really well, and I think that it's one of those, you know, Cinderella type stories where a guy probably would not get any minutes, but when he got an opportunity to get some minutes, he showed that he's not only somebody who can play in the NBA, but somebody who can actually dominate his position if given enough minutes. And I think, the Pistons have some things to really consider. Because when you got a guy like Dennis coming out of nowhere at that shooting guard position, you're waiting for Jaden Ivey to come back. I like Jaden Ivey. I still think there's some upside to Jaden Ivey, but he's had some real serious injuries, and he does have some deficiencies. So it's like, am I going to push Dennis back to the back of the bus when Ivey comes back, or is Ivey somebody that can now consider expendable? If I'm Detroit, I probably am thinking the latter on Jaden Ivey. I mean, how long do you want to do this with him? For one, in my opinion, he's supposed to be groomed to be a point guard. He's supposed to be like John Morant's doppelganger or something when he was first drafted, and it just hasn't panned out due to injuries. And I think if he didn't have those injuries, I think his development would have gone just fine. But at this point, it's like, all right, this Dennis dude came out of nowhere, and he's balling about as well as you would expect Jaden to ball. Now, does he have the athleticism of Jaden? I don't know. Does Jaden have the athleticism of Jaden after these injuries? I don't know. Is he coming back the same player? How long before he gets hurt again? There's no way to really know what's up with a player like that. He's young enough to where he still has upside, but the injuries are piling up to where he may not come back as that guy. I'm holding on to Dennis. I'm moving Jaden Ivey if I'm the Detroit Pistons, if I'm moving anybody at all. It's not like a team that's at the top of the Eastern Conference is pressed to do anything. They're doing great. But I just think that you benefit from having a guy on a rookie contract like Dennis playing that productive, more so than a guy that you have to pay who's injury prone and not developing properly. And it's a lot to ask him to play behind Dennis, but at this point, I am going to ask him to play behind Dennis, at least while he's trying to get back in shape. So, I don't know. I just think the Detroit Pistons are in a tough spot with this particular player because he's playing so well out of nowhere. So, that's what I wanted to say. Dennis Jenkins, it should be on everybody's radar as a guy who came out of absolutely nowhere and is balling very well right now for a good team. And a lot of the good has been done with him on the floor. We talk about the Detroit Pistons, why they're so good. Part of the reason why they're so good is because they've been using him, along with other stuff that's going great for them, including Jalen Duren stepping into all-star status, playing some of the best ball we've seen him play in his career. So, that's something. Detroit is really doing something good right now, and you got to like what you see there. What else, man? There's some other players, too, that come to mind, I believe. I don't know if they're coming out of nowhere, but a guy like Khalil Ware, you could clearly see needs the minutes in Miami. I think that's noteworthy. He's playing great in the absence of Bam Adebayo. And you just wonder if coach is going to give him the minutes when Bam gets back, play them alongside one another. Because in theory, they should be able to play alongside one another. Bam is like 6'8", playing the center position, strong as an ox, but he ain't overly tall. Khalil Ware is like 7'1" with like 7'6" wingspan or something crazy like that. And they both shoot the three fair enough to where it's not like you got a spacing issue with them on the floor. So I don't, far be it for me to know how Miami's necessarily doing, but I would imagine the idea is to let Khalil have ability to get the minutes that allow for him to play the level he's playing at now. And when Bam is out there, he just doesn't get those minutes. And so with Bam being out, he's playing like you expect him to play. And I think that's a player that could probably be best in a different situation if they're not going to give him that opportunity. So, yeah, people know who he is. He's not coming out of nowhere, but the way that he's playing is ultimately what I expect from him when he's given a real opportunity, and I'd like to see him get that opportunity. So those are a few names that I just wanted to throw out there. I'm sure there's some others too. Drew Timme in the G League. I hear a lot of good things about Drew Timme and how he's playing the G. He's played well in the NBA as well. I think he had some minutes with the Brooklyn Nets last year. He looked pretty good. He's down there with my Lakers G League team. Maybe he gets a call up. I don't know if he fits the criteria of what we're talking about either because he's not in the league, but I think that when you consider players that are making a big name for themselves in the lower ranks, calling them up or getting an opportunity is probably good. It's very good for them, to say the least. So I would love to see him get called up, if not with the Lakers, somebody. You know? But, and I'm not really following the G League, so I don't know who else is killing it either, so I probably shouldn't. But that's what I've been hearing, good things about him down there. But, yeah, man, there's a few things that come to mind. I do think OKC is as good as advertised, if not better. You know, it hurts my Lakers soul to say that because I think we're a real contender. But I was listening to a podcast, or it's actually from a podcast, it was talking about the Lakers and Oklahoma City Thunder matching up in the Western Conference Finals. If that would have happened, you know, they were talking about what the Lakers' chances are. I mean, with LeBron coming back, you love to think that the Lakers are a lot better than what we've seen, which is a good team. But the truth of the matter is, I just think OKC, from player to player to player, just have higher quality role players than what the Lakers can put on the floor. When you start talking about, you know, the difference between a Gabe Vincent and a Cason Wallace, you know what I mean? Or the difference between a guy like Wiggins, Aaron Wiggins, and say, you know, Jake LaRavia is a difference. You know what I mean? They just have higher quality players overall. And I just think that that's tough to match up with. Not to mention that they have this ceiling scrapers, you know, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders and J-Dubs and Chet Holmgrens. I don't think anybody really can provide that type of upside from player to player to player in the league right now. The type of depth that they have, the way they can withstand injuries to major players and still be better than everybody else, nobody else can do that right now. This is not possible. The cap won't allow you to put that much talent on your team, to be honest with you. They really have done this the right way, the way that other teams should have did it. And it is what it is, man. When you mortgage your picks, and this is not a new conversation, we say it all the time, somebody's going to benefit from that. Those picks are going somewhere. And if people are sending their picks all to one spot, like the Rockets and the Clippers did, both teams mortgage their future to the same damn squad, then yeah, that team is going to be souped up because they got all the young talent that's supposed to be going to those two teams. And that's exactly what the OKC Thunder is. It's the future of the Clippers and the Rockets combined on one squad. And so, with the Clippers being awful this season, they're making the OKC Thunder even better because whatever the Clippers' ineptitude provides them from them being horrible this season is going straight to OKC. So that means the OKC Thunder likely have a top 7 pick in the draft this upcoming season. And this is another very good draft, just like last year. So, and when you start talking about the reality of the OKC Thunder, the reality of the OKC Thunder is, from player to player to player, they're better than teams are capable of building right now. That's the truth about the OKC Thunder. You can't get as good as them. The cap won't allow it. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They benefited off a bunch of rookie contracts developed, draft well, and everybody they have comes together to play roles that are fitting for what it is their vision was. They didn't just draft a bunch of nonsense like the Brooklyn Nets did with the picks that they got. Just being honest, the Nets are awful and had like 5 first-round picks this past draft. And those players are likely not going to get the opportunities to become who it is they want to be unless they get the hell out of Brooklyn. OKC didn't do that. They had a vision. They benefited from all those teams that gave them all those picks, and they put something together that made sense. They hired a hotshot coach. They picked up some quality free agents that fit the vision as well. And now they have something that should, in theory, not be at least for another 2 or 3 years. So that's my take on OKC. People wonder, is OKC as good as advertised? No, they're better. They're actually better than advertised. I don't think people are putting enough of an emphasis on what that team actually is. That team is probably going to win the championship or be at least a finals contender for at least another 6-7 years. And as players go out, other players stepping up. If they lose J-Dub in free agency, right in time for somebody else that they got coming out of in the lottery to have a take on a role that they were supposed to have if they went to a bad team instead of going to them. And that's the reality of it. You know, AJ Mitchell, he's coming out of nowhere. This is a second-round pick last year. They've drafted well on top of all of this wealth that they have in draft equity. The stuff that they got in the back of the second round also popping. No, you're not as good as OKC. None of y'all are. And it's because you didn't do what they did. That's really the reality of it. And so I'm very much a believer. And I would be very, very surprised if they're not winning not only this championship this year, but probably the next 2 or 3. It's hard to keep winning championships, but like I said, once somebody else goes out, another guy steps up who's a lottery talent. And then that's really what it is. So even if they happen to lose Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they may be bringing in a Boozer kid next year. Like, it don't stop, man. It don't stop. And so that's the reality of OKC. They're not going anywhere but to the finals. That's where they're going. So yeah, I think that's what needs to be said. From what I understand, the Sacramento Kings, just to pivot to a bad team, is interested in making trades and getting players off of their team. Those guys don't hold any value, man. They don't hold any value. I hate to tell Sacramento this, but most of what they have is worth less because they have it. It's the truth. When you put something, and this is what we talk about a lot of times, when you put something on your team that doesn't necessarily fit or that you can't showcase properly, it immediately drops in value. And when you demonstrate yourself to be a bad team, nobody wants what you have. Or they can say they don't want what you have, even if they do, forcing you to bring down how much you're willing to take back for it. I could like Russell Westbrook all I want, but he's on your team. You don't have any leverage. So I want you to throw in a second-round pick if you want me to take him. Now, if he was on a different team where he was showcased properly, it could be the same production. If they have more leverage, they're a pretty good team, I'm going to be willing to pay regular price for him there. But with you, Sacramento, nah, you gotta throw in draft equity. And that's the leverage game, the unspoken truth of leverage in this league. It's very difficult when you're in a bad spot to get good stuff for what you have. Even if it's good stuff, if you can't make it look good, I can argue it's not good. And that'll be that. So that's the situation Sacramento's in. That's the situation Dallas is in. A lot of talk about Anthony Davis. It was said that they are trading Anthony Davis. And a report came out today that they're not trading Anthony Davis. All that equates to me is that they don't like what they see when they try to trade Anthony Davis. They're not getting any good returns on him, man. That's the truth. When you make stupid trades like they did with the Luka Doncic trade, you snatch away all leverage you have in other areas. People look at you as morons and they figure they can fleece you. They feel responsible for fleecing you, which is another way to word that. I'm not paying Dallas cost for anything they have when they gave away Luka Doncic for a third of what he's worth. No. Now they got this Anthony Davis piece who's significantly lost value in their uniform due to his health issues and their incompetence as an organization. Now they're trying to trade him and they can't get what they want from him. And the funny thing is, the Lakers had him and we were able to get Luka Doncic for him just a year ago. Just 1 year ago, we were able to take this same piece and get the third best player in the world for him. With the first round pick that we don't care about, probably ain't gonna be no good because of the presence of Luka Doncic. And Max Christie, a role player who, you know, is pretty solid. I like Max Christie. But like, now they're trying to turn around and take that same player after an injury to his groin that's kept him out for a good portion of time since he's been traded there. And now they can't get Jonathan Kuminga for that kid. They can't get Jonathan Kuminga for Anthony Davis. If the Lakers tried to trade Anthony Davis to the Golden State Warriors, we could have got Jonathan Kuminga, Moody, first picks. We could have got Podziemski. We could have got a whole load. They would have been happy to give us a bunch of stuff for Anthony Davis. All it takes is one injury and a bad couple of decisions by your organization that tanks your best piece, your best asset, tanked in value, just completely in the toilet. And that's what's happened to the Dallas Mavericks. So they can try to trade him, but they're going to take back significantly less than what he's worth. They could try to trade Kyrie Irving, but they got to wait till Kyrie gets healthy. And then when they do that, they got to understand that he's also an older player coming back from injury. Yeah, everybody knows Kyrie's good. We can all argue that Kyrie is going to be good when he comes back. But that's not the argument that's best for me if I'm trading for him to make. The argument I'm going to make is he's probably coming back a washed version of himself, coming off a knee injury, old, 34 years old. I'm not paying you what Kyrie Irving is worth. I'm telling you, you're going to have to give me something to take him from you. Now, that's probably not what people are actually going to say in regards to Kyrie Irving specifically, but that's not the point I'm really trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is he's worth less because he's in an organization that's tanked their own value as an organization. So now when you try to turn around and trade a player like Kyrie, you're probably not going to get anything they want for him, not a good return for him. You know, and then you talk about the timeline. You know, now they got this young kid, Cooper Flagg. They probably should want young stuff around him. Well, that's something that the trade partners understand, and they're not going to be quick to help you with that. You don't have the leverage to demand that, so I'm not giving you that. First picks are not on the table because I know you need them. I may give you young players, but not anybody I really like. You don't have anything I really want. You got to find a way to get something put something on the table that people actually want. And this is why Brandon Williams and Moussa Cisse could potentially be helpful for them if they decide to move those guys, because those guys are ascending in value. They should be comfortable as they continue to make a name for themselves. You may be able to get something for those guys. But for that other stuff, nah, you may not. Now I hear people say, oh, one of the big trades the Dallas Mavericks need to make is Klay Thompson. Nobody wants Klay Thompson. He's attached to you, and he's playing poorly, and he looks like a washed version of himself. You're not getting nothing for Klay Thompson. I hate to tell Dallas Mavericks fans this, but Klay Thompson's worth squat in the trade market right now. Squat. You ain't getting nothing good for him. Nothing good. Nothing that you can retrade for any value. No. You might get a bad contract. You know what I'm saying? You might get another equally washed player with a lesser name. But as far as getting something good, not from anybody that is competent enough to give you something you actually want. Now, let's say the Dallas Mavericks try to make a trade with the Sacramento Kings. That might work. You know what I mean? If they try to make a trade with a team that's equally considered as incompetent as them, yeah, you might be able to pull that off. I could totally see them swapping Anthony Davis for stuff like whatever, you know, Keegan Murray and DeMar DeRozan or something like that. Maybe, you know, Sabonis, but even though he's not looking his best right now, he might be approaching washed too, but I don't think so. I think it's more about conditioning for Sabonis, but that's not the point. They may be able to swap Anthony Davis for Sabonis, but I see that as lateral if I'm Sac. But like a team like Sac probably wants to turn the tides toward being a tanking team as well. Can they do that? Making a trade for Anthony Davis? Vice versa. Can Dallas do that, making a trade with Sacramento? Like, I just don't see a way out of this for Dallas. The truth of the matter is, Dallas, this is going to suck for you. And this is not something you're going to do what I expected you would do. But if you really want to fix your situation, the most valuable thing you have is Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg is your most valuable piece. He's more likely to get traded for cost than anything else you have. But obviously you don't want to give up him because he is the reason why you tank. He's the reason why you want to shift to a different timeline. But the reality is, it's going to be easier for you to trade him for a high-name veteran, or a really good veteran, or a package like that, than it's going to be to trade all those veterans for something that's going to fit with Cooper Flagg. That's the reality of Dallas' situation. If they really want to make sense of their situation, trading Cooper Flagg for another win now type guy probably is more doable, to be honest with you. It's much more doable. Nobody in their right mind wants to do that on the side of Dallas, but like, this is why you don't trade Luka Doncic, a 26-year-old superstar, because you don't put yourself in a position to be in the space where trading Cooper Flagg makes any type of sense to you. But based on what it is they have going on, it may be the best opportunity to make sense of their situation. Now, if I'm in their situation, do I try to make sense that way? No, I probably don't. I'll take a different route. And I'll figure something else out. But like, this is what they're faced with. This is exactly what they're faced with. You know what I mean? Like, try to trade Cooper Flag for like a LaMelo Ball or something like that. You know, it sucks, but it's true. Like, that's what they can do. Trade Cooper Flag for like Zion Williamson or something. Like, good luck. But that seems like that would be doable. More so than them turning Anthony Davis into anything good at this point. So, yeah, man, that's like, this are the type of things that these teams, you know, these teams that make bad decisions, mortgaging their future and stuff like that. I've been saying it for years. This is a terrible decision. It should not be duplicated. As soon as y'all seen the Clippers do that, y'all should have pivoted away from it. You know, Phoenix did it. Phoenix looked like they're doing great as it pertains to what you would expect from a situation like that. But long term, they still got some tough days ahead. You know, they're going to still, at some point, be forced to trade Devin Booker to get themselves out of the situation. I really believe that. But, you know, they also have some players that need to be mentioned in regards to guys that are coming out of nowhere. Colin Gillespie is definitely one of them names. He's waiting for an opportunity to be a starting shooting guard. And he's really doing good things with that. Grayson Allen also, even though people know who he is, he's having a breakout season. He needs to be mentioned as a player who's not coming out of nowhere, but just completely breaking out. He's playing higher than what you would expect his ceiling would have been. So yeah, Phoenix is finding something in those two players that's worth talking about. And it may be in some of these teams' best interest to cash out on some of these guys, man. These are the guys that may be worth trading to get something of name or cachet, man. Because they are starting to make a name for themselves, and if these GMs are doing their homework, they should covet these people before they become what it is they ultimately going to become. You want to get them now before they really make a name for themselves. You know, I start thinking about the Pacers too. The Pacers are an interesting situation because they're tanking so hard, and they're literally one season removed from Game 7 of the NBA Finals, right? So you like what they look like in the midterm, but for the very short term, that's a tough situation for a guy like T.J. McConnell. A tough situation for a guy like just some of their mid-tier guys. You know, of course, Halliburton's going to be back next season, but you have lost your centerpiece in Miles Turner. So, is their team ceiling still what it used to be, or would they not benefit from tweaking some things a little bit? It's tough though, because they look so good together as a team, getting all the way to the NBA Finals in the way that they did, and pushing the OKC Thunder to 7 games. I mean, you have to feel like if you're a part of what they have, all we got to do is just find a way to just survive this season, tank mission, hopefully get the first pick in the draft, bringing back Tyrese Halliburton, and then having an opportunity to get right back to the level you were at. So it's a tricky situation. If you're a guy like Pascal Siakam, you probably are willing to sacrifice that year to be a part of this team. But if you're Pascal Siakam, you have to be honest as well to say you're not getting any younger. You're one bad injury away from tanking in value. You're one, breakout player away from being one injury away from losing your spot. Like, that's, at this age for him, with him being as valuable as he is, he may want to be in a situation like Houston. He may want to be in a situation like the Lakers. You know what I mean? To win. And that, I don't know if you're the Pacers, you look to pivot, because the injury that Tyrese took on is not a minor one. This is something that's, this is a Achilles. So is he going to come back the same Tyrese? If you think so, does this tumble forward to him having other injuries and just being injury prone from here? It wouldn't be the worst bet either. So it's like, I don't know, Pacers, you have some valuable stuff right now. And you are tanking to high hill. And you are going to be pivoting toward, if you get the first pick in the draft, whatever that guy's timeline is. Would it not make sense to cash out on a guy like Pascal Siakam right now? Trade him and get the most value for him while he's still considered a very valuable all-star level piece? Or are you going to let him kind of go down a path where you're hoping that all of this comes back together to be what it was, when it's a good bet that it don't come back to be what it was? because you weren't supposed to be in the Game 7 of the NBA Finals last year when you were as good as you were. So I wonder about this particular team because they're starting off the season so bad, and they really do have a bunch of guys that just played in the NBA Finals. The value is high as it's probably going to be. You know, some of these guys' value is just as high as it's going to be. So if I'm the Pacers, I got to think about this as we approach the trade deadline in a few months. You might want to take a more of a serious look at trading stuff than maybe you would anticipate, because you could cash out on something good. You may be able to get somebody that you really like. Or maybe, you know, there's a chance that if they decide to do a wholesale, they get really good stuff for what it is they have, and be able to surround whatever the pick is about to be, and Tyrese Halliburton when he comes back, with stuff that's even better than what they had last year. But these are the type of things you got to get right the first time around. And I don't know what the Pacers, you know, I can make an argument that they probably shouldn't, but I think the argument that they should is a good one. So it's tough, man. I don't necessarily feel the same way about the Celtics, only because they have such good stuff around Jason Tatum returning that's not aging. And the second best player on the Pacers is aging. That's the point. Pascal Siakam is aging. Jaylen Brown ain't aging. You know, Peyton Pritchard ain't aging. It's not the situation. So I don't necessarily feel the same way about Jason Tatum's situation in Boston. So, you know, it is what it is, man. I wonder, man. I wonder what some of these teams are going to do. I wonder if it makes sense for some of them to pivot away from that timeline, cash out on some of the more valuable stuff that they have, and fix their books a little bit so they're not paying so much for certain things and stuff like that. It might be best to get under the cap since your team is crap anyway if you're the Sacramento Kings. You know what I mean? Your team's trash. Just trade stuff to get under the cap, save money as an owner. Why you want to win now? Dallas, why you want to win now? You got Cooper Flagg, number 1 overall pick, potentially a transcendent player. Why do you want to surround him with guys that are old? And then have them retire in your uniform or lose value significantly as to which you can't bring them, your man, anything for the next era. Nah. If you can trade Kyrie and Anthony Davis for anything worth having, it probably makes a lot of sense to do so. I don't know if you can, but I know they don't want to give up Kyrie. Everybody loves Kyrie. I love Kyrie, but at some point in time, you got to realize that your team ain't going to be no good whether he's there or not. You're going to be asking him to do too much to make up for the fact that you don't have much. That ain't a situation. If you love Kyrie, you don't ask him to rot in Dallas. That's what I want to say to the Dallas Mavericks fan. Oh, we love Kyrie. We don't want to trade him. You are in hell. Trade the man for his betterment. If you love him, that's what you do. You get him out of this bad situation. You don't have him dying down there with you. BDL 44. I thank you for watching. Wow.